Today on Deeper Dives, you're going to meet writer, producer, record executive Billy Mann. Billy has written or co-written some of the most famous songs of the last decade and a half. Welcome to Deeper Dives.
You know, we are living, ironically, in this hyper-connected yet completely unforgiving world at the moment. And I really think ultimately it's choice making. I don't think marriage is for everybody. I don't think having kids is for everybody. But I think the choice making is for everybody. And what choices we're making on a consistent basis and business choices and how they impact our personal lives also important. And I can't say I always thought that way. I mean, obviously before I had kids and before I was married, I would take whatever gig came my way because I needed to eat. And also I was so worried that the next gig wouldn't come along. Right. So I wrote for everything. Like anything that came my way, I would do 2 sessions, maybe sometimes 3 a day. I'd go to clubs at night because I wanted to hear what was going on. And then after Jenna and I had, my first son was born, and then she was pregnant with my second son, I had done a record that was pretty significant with a big artist, a multi-platinum artist, and something had happened in the making of that record that for me was really hard to swallow because I had crossed that threshold with the Jessica Simpson record where I had done the records for free to establish myself as a producer and had the hits. And then all of a sudden I was confronted by an artist and their manager who traded me out for another producer who was one of my idols.
Oh, wow.
And took my arrangement, me playing the piano, my guitar playing, the voicings, the same vocal that I produced to the artist, retracked some of the same stuff, put their name on it, and boxed me out. Mm. And I was, I was very close with the artist, or so I thought, very close with the artist, and had been through the artist's own journey. But for me, I still, to this day, I can't quite live with it. Anyway, this artist, A&R person, called me up and said, would love you to come and work on the greatest hits, which when you're on the greatest hits as a songwriter, if there's an artist that sold several million copies, when they put out a greatest hits, it's the evergreen recordings of that artist. So you want a greatest hits, especially the odds are if they're doing new songs that there will be a single off of the greatest hits. It's not going to be the greatest hits. It'll be that song, which is the commercial driver. And Jenna was pregnant with our second, and we were living on Park Avenue at the time, which was a milestone moment for me. I always had this vision I would live someplace not in my car. That was one. And I remember being on the phone and saying, I just don't think I can get past what happened. Wow. And the A&R person said, you know, do you realize how much money this is? And I just said, some things are not about the money. And then I hung up the phone and then had a panic attack looking at my pregnant wife with my baby boy on the floor. But the decision I made was during the time that was allocated for that project, I was going to go to LA anyway, and I would figure out, I'm going to make something happen. And I was devastated. I was like really devastated because I considered this artist a personal friend. And it was when I was in LA that I was connected to Craig Logan, who was Roger Davies' partner at the time, managing Pink, and they called me and said, oh, you're in LA, Alicia's there, you guys should meet. And that was 20 years ago, about 30 million albums later.
Wow.
And that moment changed my life. But I think, to your point, Mitchell, it was the decision making, right? It's about leverage. It's about weighing your options. And some of it is more and more as I get older, and this is fucked up to say to young people because it's so much easier to say from a position where you're financially stable. But it's not just the currency of the money, but it's the currency of one's self-worth.